Alrighty. Up next is UFC 239, which was a sick card. You know, when the UFC is like the number one game in town, because when you think, you know, there's no like big names left and there's no more like Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor doesn't fight, you know, the legends like Silva and Chuck Liddell, and they're not fighting like as regularly, and they're definitely past their prime. You know, Liddell shouldn't have fought that last fight against Tito, but he did. Wherever it was that they sanctioned it, just like stuff like that. It's like you think it's like gonna go down or something. Like it's past its peak, like as a sport. But then a card like UFC 239 comes along, and you're like, oh no, this is just like gonna be a never-ending cycle of like greats that come up and go down, come up and go down. And, you know, the next generation of fighters, you know, fill in the shoes very well. I think the first fight on the main card was like a microcosm of that, because it was Chiesa, who was the Ultimate Fighter winner in season 14 or 15, if I'm not mistaken, and versus Diego Sanchez, which was the Ultimate Fighter winner of season 1 of the Ultimate Fighter. And you just see kind of like a passing of the guard of sorts, in that like Chiesa just completely outclassed him. Like, no knock on Diego. He like had a great showing versus Mickey Gall when he last fought him. Surprising upset victory for him. Chiesa just like completely outclassed him. I think Rogan said it best during the commentary. He was like, it's kind of like when, especially when they were on the ground and Chiesa was like transitioning like a ninja. He was like flipping over his back and just like doing every single thing he wanted and getting his way each time. Rogan said that it's like a black belt rolling with a blue belt. It was like he was just like playing with him. And Chiesa looked great, man. And I think this is his second fight, maybe third in that weight class. He definitely belongs there. You know, he doesn't have to like cut weight as much. I think he was fighting at 155 before, and this one was at 170. He looked fucking phenomenal. He was really impressive. I was probably like one of the fighters on the entire card that I was like most impressed with, because I wasn't expecting that much of a dominant performance from him. So that was definitely a dope fight. Then Luke Rockhold looked great in his fight, and I don't even know the gentleman's name. Never seen him fight before. That Rockhold fought, but I should definitely look that up. Let's see what his name is. UFC 239 card. The guy that Luke Rockhold was fighting was Jan Blachowicz. 24 wins, 8 losses. He was fighting Luke Rockhold, which looked great. Like, he looked, to me, really good. Like, during the first round, he looked sharp. At the end of the first round, one getting clipped, and it was like, oh shit. Then winds up getting knocked out in the second round. It was a precise ass like uppercut. It didn't look so heavy and hard as opposed to how like precise it looked. It was just like right on the button on his chin and knocked him out cold. And Dana White actually wound up saying in the post-fight press conference that he broke his jaw, which was the second time that Luke Rockhold has a broken jaw, and said that Rockhold should retire, that he should consider retirement, and it's not like he doesn't have other options. This is the second time he breaks his jaw, and he's also had like other injury issues and surgeries and shit. And he's literally a model, a legit model for Ralph Lauren. So it's like, why continue doing this? But we'll see. You know, with fighters, it's like, that's what fighters do. If it was definitely a money thing, they probably wouldn't have been doing that MMA at all. They would have been like trying boxing or something like that. But that shows that this is a passion, especially when you have that Ralph Lauren modeling money coming in and you're still fighting. That's like Conor taking a fight against Khabib after $100 million payday from fighting Mayweather. You know, there's other motivations there. Next up is Maz Vetal versus Ben Askren. This was the fight that I was looking forward to the most. And I'll tell you why. I wanted to see what Ben Askren has. We didn't really get to see much against Robbie Lawler. He is spoken of as a mythical creature almost. Ben Askren is, and his like wrestling ability. And we got to see a little bit of that showcased against Robbie Lawler, but not much, because Robbie was like fucking him up, and then Ben wound up recovering from that enough to catch Robbie in what seemed like a neck crank type choke, or not choke, but like a neck crank hold. And there was a controversial stoppage where some people said Robbie Lawler was not out. Herb Dean, which was the ref, even said on Rogan's podcast that he definitely thinks he was out momentarily, but then came to. And it was like one of those, they shouldn't have stopped it, and some people say they should have stopped it, and he was out versus he wasn't out. They should run the fight back, etc., blah, blah, blah. So it was like a controversial finish. And the fight didn't last that long. I think that was in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. Early in the first round. And so I was looking forward to seeing what Askren has, like in a longer fight. Then Maz Vetal comes out with a flying knee to Askren's head and knocked him out in the fastest knockout of UFC history. 5 seconds is what they recorded it at, even though he was knocked out at 3 seconds. And you could even argue for 2 seconds. But it just took the referee that long to run from the other side of the octagon to where Askren was to officially stop the fight at 5 seconds. And it was still the fastest knockout in history. Maz Vetal then puts out a training video that he had of him practicing that exact same move because they saw tendencies of Askren like shooting for a double leg in the beginning, like, you know, going down to like grab the person's legs to like, it's a common wrestling move to like take him down. And he wanted to counter that with a flying knee. And lo and behold, did it, landed it, knocked him out cold, and wound up landing 2 punches to the jaw right after. Even though he was like stiff cold, like knocked out. It was an impressive victory for Maz Vetal. Would be interesting to see him in a title match. That's a ruthless motherfucker right there. And also someone that I felt was going to wind up being like more of a journeyman in the UFC. Like I felt like he had a little spike during his career and then went back down, and then now is having like this reemergence after like knocking out Till and then Askren, and now is probably like in talks for title contention. And he was back in the day in those you guys remember those Kimbo Slice, rest in peace. You remember those Kimbo Slice backyard like fighting in Florida and shit? Maz Vetal used to do that shit. He used to like be in those videos also, like in the undercard of the Kimbo fights type shit. And he's gone from that to UFC gold contention. It's a pretty dope story arc right there. Then you have Amanda Nunes, which I actually thought that Holly Holm could pull off another upset. Holly Holm is like the dark horse that comes in and winds up beating people you don't think she could beat. I thought that she was going to be able to do that against Amanda Nunes, but Amanda Nunes, in solidifying her spot as the GOAT of any female division, wound up knocking out Holly Holm in Holly Holm style fashion, which she later said that she wanted to beat her at her own game, and she did, with a right head kick that knocked Holly on her ass, and then she came and with a barrage of punches and got a TKO victory in the first round. That was an impressive fight as well. The champ Amanda Nunes. Now, I think she said she wants to go down and defend the other belt and then come back, and it's she can do whatever the hell she wants. She is literally the GOAT of the female divisions. Shevchenko is the only one that I think might give her comp. She went 5 rounds with her once in the past, and that would be a sick fight to see in the women's division if they can make that happen. And Shevchenko is a champ now, so Nunes will have to be like triple champ, the first triple champ in history. And last but not least, John Bones Jones versus Thiago Santos was a really good fight. Some people were saying afterwards, I didn't see the fight live as it was going on. I wound up watching it the next day. 2 days later. And like the sentiment behind it was that it was like such a close fight. Santos almost beat Jones. It went 5 rounds to a 5-round decision. If the decision went to Santos, folks were saying that they wouldn't have been surprised. I didn't see that at all. I saw that Santos did a great job. He scored a lot. He hit Jones impressively several times, like caught him in like barrages and like pushed him back and caught him with combinations, and he did great in that sense. But to Jones's credit, it seemed like none of them hurt him, even though Santos was like throwing bombs. Like Jones has a granite fucking chin apparently. Like walked right through everything. Like he didn't look wobbled or like badly hurt or anything like that throughout the entire fight. And Jones, in true Jones fashion, was dominating in terms of like the leg kicks and significant leg kicks. When they showed the numbers after, he was ahead on everything. He landed more, but they seemed to be like less effective strikes because Thiago Santos was throwing bombs and wasn't like too badly hurt. There was a couple times where it seemed like Jones was about to like turn it up and step on the gas, but then he like let off for whatever reason, and probably because he saw that Santos wasn't as dazed as maybe he thought he was. But I'll tell you what was the most impressive was the fact that after the fight, it came out that Santos fought with an ACL tear, a meniscus tear, and a tibia fracture. So this guy's leg was like hanging on by like for dear life type shit. And he was still like you could see it in the fight. Like even like Rogan and the commentators were like Anik and this other guy, I forget his name. He was a fighter that was commentating for the first time that I've seen. They were saying that there's something seems to be wrong with his leg. It looks, he was definitely like limping on it. You could tell sometimes when he landed on it after throwing it, like he almost fell, and he did fall, I think, a couple times, and his leg was like noticeably fucked up. But we just didn't know like what exactly, right? Until it came out after the fight, which made me like that much more impressed with Santos because he stuck it out. That's my son's like toy iPhone in the background that for some reason goes off and talks by itself sometimes. So yeah, it was like more impressive. They stuck it out with John Jones and gave him a really good fight to the point that some people even thought that he won. But yeah, man, UFC 239 was a very dope card. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you check it out. It was so good that I looked up like the night of like the outcomes, like I saw on Twitter, like as they were happening and people like posting clips, and I still wanted to see the full card, and I wound up watching it and was not disappointed. And even though I knew like the outcomes for like the top 3 fights, check it out. That's UFC 239. That's all.